I have a topic that I was looking at that we can discuss. I've lost the chat window. 1 second now. Here we go. All right. I don't have a title for this. I don't have a title for this, and I haven't finished writing it yet. But we're going to look at it anyway because I think it's practical and useful. The topic is conclusions about people. What that means is, how do we decide if a person is somebody we can work with, somebody we can give information to, somebody we can trust? And I follow certain people on the internet. One of them is a lawyer. He's actually a very famous lawyer in the United States and has represented many important people. And he gave 7 tips for what to look for when you're meeting with people, I guess either physically or digitally, that can help you make a decision about, is this person a good person to work with or not? And we all have to, make those decisions sometimes on a daily basis, right? Sometimes very quickly. And it's much, much harder in the digital sphere because you're just looking at some image on a screen and you don't know how tall they are. You don't know if they're thin or they're fat. You don't know if you don't have enough information in that situation to be able to make that decision objectively. And then what you have to do is rely on other people's recommendations, which might or might not be wrong. Many, many, many times in my life, I've been told this person is a wonderful person, and I have discovered that that's absolutely not. It's absolutely not true at all. In fact, I've often wondered why somebody would tell me that another person is a wonderful person and not let me make that decision for myself. I've often wondered about that. I think very often we project what we want other people to think onto them. You will like it. I'm like, how do you know I won't like it? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Don't tell me what I'm gonna like. Right? Let me make the decision for myself. That frustrates me about children as well. People tell children about the experience before children have the experience. They tell the children, oh, you're really going to love this. It's fantastic. And I think that might be a little bit of a mistake. It's not a big mistake, but I think it might be a little bit of a mistake because you want the child to develop their own idea about it. You know, if the child hears dad saying, oh, the ketchup is fantastic on chips. Ketchup is fantastic. And the child's going to believe ketchup is fantastic on chips and put the ketchup on their chips, right? I mean, they just copy, right? Copy and paste. And I think that we try to tell children what the experience is going to be, and instead of just letting them have the experience. But it's not a big thing. It's just a little thing that I've noticed where people don't let children decide for themselves if they like things. And I think that children need to decide for themselves. So 7 ways to help decide if you can trust a person or not. Number 1, can you see the chat?
Yes.
Okay, number 1. Always consider the entire body, that means everything, of a person's life work. Obviously do some research from reliable sources, think for yourself, but always consider not just where that person is at right now, but where that person has been before and what they have done. The we call it the track record, the history of a person. And here's something to think about. You hear somebody say, he or she is a great writer. And maybe they are good at writing something. There's something here, don't have something here, right? Maybe they're good at writing something specific, like children's books. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make them a great writer, because they can only write children's books. If they've written this style of book and that style of book and something fictional and something factual, and then you can say, oh, well, they've got skills in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always worth considering a person's experience in terms of the breadth of experience or the size of experience, because very often what happens is you take examples from one area in life and you can apply them somewhere else. If you have a narrow range of experiences, you can't do that. So consider a person's entire body of work, all of their work.
But generally, this point is about researching or about research.
Absolutely. Know who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Know who you're
it's
talking.
about preparation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about, yeah, and it's about not just believing, you know, it's about going and think, as it says, thinking for yourself, right? Think for what is, you know, what does your brain tell you about it? Okay. Number 2 is determine whether a person's positions are consistent with his or her life's work. Watch if there are significant inconsistencies. What this means is what they're saying, does it fit together with everything that you know and with everything that's happened? Because a lot of people will say something because A, they think another person wants to hear it, or B, they're going to get some advantage from saying that thing. And the compliment is a classic example of that. When someone says, "Oh, I love your shirt," it's like, do you really love my shirt, or, you know, are you just trying to get onto my good side? You're just trying to start a conversation, maybe. I don't know. But there's a lot of people, sad but true, a lot of people will say one thing in one place and another thing in another. Yeah. Somebody said to me recently, you will understand this. I don't know if you'll appreciate it, but you'll understand it. Somebody said to me recently, you have to be very careful what you say. I understand that. But at the same time, to be very careful about what you say is to not be yourself. And to not be yourself could be a bigger problem. To not be yourself, because I can defend myself if I say something which maybe is outrageous or extreme. I think I have the ability to explain myself, hopefully in a logical and rational way. And I think that for me, that's very much better than trying to not say things to keep other people happy a lot of the time. And so I try to always be the same person wherever I am. It doesn't work 100% because I don't think anybody can really do it, because it's human limitations, really. But, you know, I try to be, I will try to imagine, I will say the same thing in front of a group of business people as I will say in front of my children. I might change a few words here and there, but I'll say basically the same thing, because I think that why should I change? I don't think that's consistent with being myself. Anyway, be consistent. All right. It's funny because this is also relevant to so much more than business right now. Number 3, use your common sense. I already talked about Thomas Paine, author of a book called Common Sense. Does the accusation, the statement make sense?
Mm-hmm.
He did that. She did that. Well, I've spent a large part of the last few weeks with people in different offices and departments and discussing this very topic of, this doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, let's try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And of course, if it doesn't make sense, what you have is a narrative, you have a story, and then you're in trouble, right? Then you're in trouble, because there's no way to go back once you start to tell stories. You can't say, well, it wasn't really like it's like, you can't go back. You can't put the words back in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Well,
You can't put the genie back in the bottle, or the lamp, Aladdin's lamp analogy, right? So it doesn't make sense. If not, watch out. And remember, these statements are coming from one of the top lawyers in the United States. This is somebody with 20, 30 years experience with Supreme Courts and cases and judgments. And I think we need to listen to people with more experience than ourselves in order to grow. So that's number 3, doesn't make sense. Because a lot of the times that will hit me later. Like, somebody will say something and I'll be, oh, okay, because I'm not looking for people to be wrong or manipulative or whatever. I'm not looking for that. But later, something will click, like, that's why. It was later it clicks. It takes a little bit of time. Which I think is a good thing, because if you're always looking for some problem somewhere, you mess with your head, right? Okay, for number 4. What have we got? Number 4. Number 4, analyze the motivation and goals of the accused person. The accused person is the person who everybody says did something wrong or did something bad. Yeah. Analyze the motive, what's behind it. Would they really have something to gain from doing what it is that they are accused of doing? Is that person working for his or her good, or for the good of others? That's a really great point. What did the Romans say? Qui bono, who benefits? It's the Latin term. Yeah, who benefits? Who gets the most? Who wins as a result? Nobody wins in court. Maybe you could argue the lawyers make money, and the courts make money, and the judges make money, and the clerks make money, and the administrators make money. Maybe they get something out of it. But even they don't like their job a lot of the time. So there are no winners. In a win-lose scenario, which is what a court is, there's everybody's going to lose something. Everybody's going to lose something. Because it's, here's a crazy thing. I'm going to court, but I don't really want to win. This might sound a bit crazy. I don't really want to win. I just want justice. Winning doesn't matter to me. I don't really care.
But question in this case, question is what will be win for you or for other person?
No, I know it's different things, isn't it? It's two different things.
Yeah.
It's two completely different things. Yeah. I don't want to win in a situation where somebody else loses. I don't get any good feeling from that. I don't get any good feeling from seeing somebody else lose and be unhappy, and to know that I'm the cause of their unhappiness to a certain extent. I get no joy from that at all. It does not please me. So, but it's a great point. What is victory to you? Get off with their heads. Well, that's what it is for some people. Okay, where were we? We got 4.
Yes.
We got 4. Okay, 3 more. Here's a great one. Analyze who is taking personal risks in asserting his or her position. Analyze who is taking personal risks. And again, this is a deeply difficult point, but if a person is going to risk everything, then you have to wonder, you have to again wonder why. Why are they going to risk everything? What is the risk to them? What do they have to lose from it? If a person has nothing to lose, then it can also be a dangerous situation to be in as well, because they won't stop in that situation. I think there's always some level of personal risk, but it's different for different people. Yeah. And once again, if people's opinions about what is right are different, there's going to be different levels of risk. Very, very few people ever risk everything. And it might not be a good thing to do that. I have learned, number 6, I have learned recently to trust your instincts. It is my belief from what I have read, so it's more than a belief, it's actually fact-based knowledge, that the human being has at least 3 brains. At least 3 brains. And I'm not talking about conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. I'm talking about parts of the body that process information. The head, the heart, and the stomach are the 3 main ones. You can also argue that the head is actually 2. There are 2 brains within the human skull, a left brain and a right brain. You can argue that. You can also argue there is a 4th male brain, which is lower down, somewhere between the legs. Let's call that the warrior brain, right? See that kid? That kid's got his brains down there, right? But so it's a flexible topic, but instinctually, with instinct, there are the thoughts from our head, the thoughts from our heart, and the thoughts from our stomach, all of which different and all of which contribute to our understanding. The most important of which I would argue today is the stomach. Because it's our stomach that very often reacts first to most things. Not always, but very often. Talk about human fear, right? If you have a fear, if you're scared of something, it's very often the stomach that reacts first to that. It's not the brain. It's not your brain that goes, oh, you have a fear or you're scared. It's your stomach that reacts first. Maybe the hair on your arm will stand up as well, or something like that. But it's your instincts. What does your instinct tell you? Which is asking, what does your history tell you? Well, John, you have experience with this. What does your gut say? And it's crazy, but sometimes that's all we have. Sometimes that's all we have to go on. You're in a city, you're lost, you're driving around. Which way do you go? You sort of go with, all right, I'm gonna trust it, it's this way. So there's also decisions from the heart, where we're doing things for others. And there's our brain, which is sort of keeping us alive. It's sort of, let's make sure you remember to eat, and do all the other important little things. So trust your instincts. And the final one, let me just make it a little bit short here. Okay, number 7. Today's world requires the exercise of a high level of discernment. Discernment, from the verb to discern, is the ability to realize what is true. Which in my experience only comes through experience. It's what we say, you can't put an old head on young shoulders. You can't give someone the experiences that they haven't had. It's just not possible. And there's very good universal reasons for that. So today's world requires an exercise of a high level of discernment. And this is because there's now so much information that some of the information might not be correct. I mean, the more information you have, the harder it is to make decisions sometimes. Too many choices. like me in an ice cream shop, okay? If I walked into an ice cream shop and they've got 100 different ice creams, there's a high probability I walk back out. I'm like, I can't go 100 different ice creams. That's too much for my head. Just pick one. Yeah, but I can't. There's too many. Oh my God. So, discernment. That's my number one lesson for my son. That's what I was teaching him. The single greatest skill that you will ever learn in your life is the ability to know if another person is telling the truth or lying. Because the quality of your life depends on knowing what is true. Because if you don't know what's true, you maybe are living a lie. And that for sure will make people very unhappy. So experience gives us discernment. Spiritual people would argue that God gives us discernment, or praying or meditation gives us discernment, or reading from a spiritual text might give us discernment. as well, and a different way of thinking. To quote the Bible, things which are impossible with men are possible with God. So that's the spiritual context. It's where ideas cross over. So 7 points. Is there one of those 7 that